After a weekend off, the UFC returns this weekend with UFC Vegas 85. This is the first event in an 11 consecutive weekend run that the UFC has, leading us up to the big UFC 300 card in mid-April. This weekend is not that bad of a serving, as in the middleweight division, we have the headliners going at it between Roman Dolidze and Nasruddin Imavov, one of those guys looking to get closer to that top five and getting into title contention. Meanwhile, in the co-main event, we have a banger of a fight that is sure to produce fireworks, as we have Renato Money Moicano making his long-awaited return as he takes on Drew Dober. A very fun fight that should produce a finish, and more likely in highlight reel fashion as well. Now, obviously, this is the condensed version of the picks that I have for you guys for this week. And if you guys are looking for the full, more in-depth breakdowns for all of these fights, check out the MMA Logcast, which I drop pretty much near noon every Monday of fight week. You can find the link in the description below or in the top here with one of these cards. So make sure you guys check that out. And if you're wondering, Manpreet, how do you do such in-depth research on all these fights? Well, there's one way, and a lot of people are taking advantage of it too. It is through the MMA Fight Archive, of which I am the architect. I ensure that I and all my subscribers leave no stone unturned when we're researching these cards that are upcoming, not just for the UFC, but also for PFL, Dana White's Contender Series, KSW, Aries FC, Risen FC, Brave FC, Octagon MMA, CFFC, A1 Combat, UAE Warriors, LFA, Cage Warriors, Fury FC, Invicta FC, and ACA. A ton of regional events for you guys to cover there as well. So if you like MMA as much as I do, or you break them down and try to predict them and try to get action on these cards, make sure you leave no stone unturned by utilizing the MMA Fight Archive. 7-day free trial available. Check the link in the description below to get access to over 3,000 fighter profiles that we have available for you to study up on and get familiar with all of these fighters. All right. Without further ado, I hope you're laced up and ready to go, because we're off and running with the first fight of the night. This goes down in the heavyweight division between Thomas Petersen and Jamal Pogues. I believe Petersen, making his UFC debut here, should be able to get the better of Pogues by utilizing a more active and grapple-heavy approach. Petersen is the former LFA heavyweight champion, and I believe he'll be able to bring that potential into the UFC. And although Pogues is a little bit more experienced than him, I do expect Petersen to control the majority of this matchup with his clinch and his wrestling, which should put Pogues on the defensive for the majority of 15 minutes. Give me Petersen, and Petersen by decision. Next up, we got Landon Quinones going up against Markel Mederos. Mederos is looking to make his UFC debut this weekend after earning his contract on the Contender Series this past season. This guy trains out of Factory X and has a very mean calf-kicking game, but can change things up and utilize his grapple-heavy approach if that's what's required. I believe he has all the advantages in this matchup over Quinones, and although Quinones might have a Hail Mary KO chance in this matchup, I do think that Mederos can control the majority of this fight with his calf kicks, slowing down Quinones and possibly getting a late finish or winning this fight on the scorecards. Next up, we got Luana Carolina going up against Yulia Stoliarenko, and Stoliarenko is now looking to make it 2-0 since moving down to the women's flyweight division. She's clearly in much better shape than she used to be, and that allows her to take fights to the ground and have major success there, specifically with snatching up armbar victories. Through her 11 professional wins, 10 of them have come by armbar, and I expect her to snatch up another one this weekend by submitting Carolina in under 2.5 rounds. Next up, we got Jung Yoon Lee going up against Blake Bilder. Lee is looking to make his official UFC debut after winning the Road to UFC tournament in 2022. Apparently, he went into that matchup with an injury, and he has had surgery and had a full rehab before making his return to the cage a full year after earning his contract. He is a nasty striker who looks to go out there and finish most of his opponents. He may have faced a little bit of a grapple-heavy approach last time around from Yi Jia, and I think even with his busted up knee, made a decent account of himself. Now fully healthy and fully healed, I expect him to stop the takedowns of Bilder, keep this fight in the striking realm, and eventually find a knockout within 10 minutes of this fight starting. Next up, we got Themba Gorimbo going up against Pete Rodriguez. Gorimbo looking to pick up another win here after he was able to pick up that decision victory over Takashi Sato back in May. And I think that Gorimbo's unorthodox and lanky grappling style should allow him to get this fight to the ground and find that finish over Pete Rodriguez in the first 10 minutes. However, this chalky line is just a little bit too wide for me, especially considering the danger that Pete Rodriguez brings with the knockout power that he possesses. Gorimbo is a little bit too wild and reckless on the feet for my liking, which could present a finishing opportunity for Rodriguez. So I'd rather pass on this fight as a whole. Maybe take the chalky fight, doesn't go to decision, but I'm still going to keep Gorimbo as a prediction for this matchup. Moving over to the flyweight division, we got Azat Maksum going up against Charles Johnson. Maksum looking to make it back-to-back victories in the UFC after picking up a decision victory over Tyson Nam in his debut. It was a close fight, and he did a great job of staying away from the big power of Nam, and I think a lot of people were kind of low on him after that performance, considering he was unable to establish the grapple-heavy approach, which made him so successful on the regional scene. I expect him to be somewhat more just as successful as he was in the Tyson Nam fight, with the cage clinching, cage pushing, and eventual takedowns, keeping Charles Johnson on the defensive for the majority of this matchup. I was surprised to see Maksum around that minus 190 line, as most people look to take advantage of fighters that are usually that dominant and coming in with a 17-0 record. I think we'll see Maksum keep Johnson on the defensive, like I said, with his cage clinch, his cage push, and some wrestling, and I think that'll allow him to go out there and squeak out a decision victory. Next up, we got a rematch between Molly McCann and Deanna Belbita. A pointless matchup in my opinion, but McCann looking to get back onto the winning track after she got submitted by Yulia Stoliarenko in her last matchup. I think McCann will be able to pull off what she did last time around against Belbita, and that's taking her into the grappling realm, grinding her up against the cage, dragging her to the mat, and getting some solid control time. Belbita has talked about retiring recently, but wanted to try to avenge this loss before she decided to hang it up. She has some good striking, some decent output and good activity, but I think she's going to be unable to stop the takedowns and constant pressure from Molly McCann. So give me McCann and McCann by decision. Next up, we got Gilbert Urbina taking on Charles Radtke. Urbina is a very solid grappler in his own right, does a great job in terms of establishing his range as well with his kicks up the middle and his straight shots down the pipe, and I think he's going to put on a pressure that Radtke is just not ready for. I think we'll see Urbina grapple this fight, and I think we'll see Radtke be competitive through the first round and a half, but I think as we get into deeper waters, we'll see Urbina start to pull away and eventually posture up and find a TKO finish in the third round of this matchup. Moving over to the middleweight division, we got the return of Aliaskhab Khizriev as he takes on Mahmoud Muradov. It's very unfortunate that we haven't seen Khizriev as active in the promotion since earning his contract through the 2020 season of the Contender Series. This will be his second fight, and he's looking to build upon that big win he had over Denis Tiuliulin, and I think he should be able to out-grapple Muradov here, put the pressure on him, and take advantage of Muradov as he starts to slow down late in this matchup. Sprinkling Khizriev by round 3 or by decision is not a bad spot here, but I think we'll see Khizriev enjoy control time and stay away from the more technical striking approach of Muradov. Give me Khizriev and Khizriev by decision. Moving over to the women's flyweight division, we got Viviane Araujo going up against Natalia Silva. Silva has been looking very dominant since joining the UFC, and she has rattled off 10 straight victories. She utilizes a lateral heavy movement style where she's able to kick her opponents from distance, but also crash the pocket and throw big strikes to hurt her opponents. She has a very active game from her back with her jiu-jitsu, which allows her to either throw up submissions or create reversal or get up opportunities so she can get back to her handiwork and her footwork that makes it so hard for opponents to land cleanly on her. I fully expect Silva to dance circles around Araujo here, and she might face some adversity early on in this matchup with Araujo's grapple heavy approach, which is what I'm assuming she's going to try here, but I think we'll see Silva get back to her feet, cause Araujo to work a lot here, and that will make it easier for Natalia Silva to pick her apart en route to a decision victory. Moving over to the next matchup here, we got Randy Brown going up against Muslim Salikhov. Randy Brown had his 4-fight winning streak snapped last time by Jack Della Maddalena, and he was scheduled to fight Muslim Salikhov back in December. Unfortunately, an illness knocked one of them out of that fight, and luckily the UFC was able to match them back up so they didn't have to throw a training camp down the drain. Now, Randy Brown is obviously going to have a 4-inch height advantage and an 8-inch reach advantage in this matchup, which will allow him to keep the older and aging aging and slower Muslim Salikhov at range. Salikhov might be 39 years old right now, but he could definitely pack some power, and that's obviously the concern if you're looking to back Brown here. But I think that Brown will do a good enough job in terms of using his kicks up the middle and his long-range jab to keep Salikhov at distance. This will allow him to pick him apart and eventually win this fight on the scorecards. Moving over to this next matchup, we got Renato Moicano going up against Drew Dober in the co-main event. Moicano is looking to return from a serious knee injury that he suffered while preparing for Arman Tsarukyan in early 2023. Now healthy and looking to take advantage of the viral fame that he had after his fight with Brad Riddell and going on the mic. He's looking to take advantage of that viral hype that he's had, utilizing his very highlight reel type fighting approach. He has a very nasty Muay Thai striking game, but he's even more dangerous when he's able to get fights to the ground. I think he'll face some adversity early here against Dober, but if Moicano can get his grappling going, I fully expect him to eventually latch on to a submission, taking on home the neck of Drew Dober. So I'm going to take Moicano here with a little bit of confidence, as I think that he'll be able to get that submission and win this fight in round 2. That brings us to our main event of the evening, which goes down in the middleweight division, where we got Roman Dolidze taking on Nasruddin Imavov. Now, Imavov is looking to keep 2023 in his rearview mirror after he went 0-1 and no contest after having a 3-fight winning streak between 2021 and 2022. This Russian sniper does a great job in terms of utilizing his long-range weapons, touching his opponents up from distance, and if he's able to, latching onto chokes from desperation takedown attempts, I think that will see him pick off Dolidze here over the at least 3 to 4 rounds while Dolidze tries to recklessly crash the pocket and land big shots. My only concern is when this fight gets into deep waters, if Imavov starts to slow down and break from the constant pressure and forward movement of Dolidze, things could get a little bit sticky. I personally prefer the over 2.5 around that minus 150 range as the safest spot in this fight, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Dolidze is able to pull off the upset here. But I'm gonna believe in the improvements and experience that Imavov has been garnering over the last couple of years, and believe that he should be able to keep Dolidze at bay with his long-range weapons and his distance striking en route to a decision victory. There you guys go. Quick picks for UFC Vegas 85. Reminder, if you want to see the full card in-depth breakdown for this, where I go about 50 minutes on the entire card, check the MMA Lockcast, which I dropped earlier this week. On Tuesday, I dropped the top 3 Lock of the Night candidates. On Wednesday, I dropped 3 top 3 Dog of the Night candidates. Later today, I'll be dropping a free parlay for you guys. And then on Friday, I'll be dropping the 3 best prop bets. So stay tuned for all of that info and content. If you guys even want more information or even breakdowns for the Road to UFC event, which goes down as soon as this card wraps up, you guys can check out the Lock of the Night Patreon page, which is also in the description below. All right, appreciate all the love, appreciate all the support, and I'll see you guys again later today for the free parlay. Peace.